One's ready. One's ready. Go! So you guys are going into Special Warfare Assessment Selection. It is an attributes-based selection model. What does that mean?
Guys, are we running right now to get fitter? Are we practicing running? Practicing.
I can't freaking...
So there's a holistic picture that we're looking for. The instructors are giving you input, and we're expecting an output. And everything is for a reason. If you guys haven't heard my spiel yet, everything that we do, every single exercise, has a connection to the job that you're trying to do. We don't want people at INDOC, Special Warfare Assessment Selection, whatever they're gonna call the new course when it inevitably changes somewhere down the road. I don't care what they call it. What I need is you to show me the raw materials for the things that I wanna build you into. Just like everything else, it's a crawl, walk, run.
I can run a keystone just like this. All the way to ATC, you never quit. All the way to ATC, you never quit.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. This is your daily drop for the 28th of July, but it's not just the 28th of July. This is also from this past Friday, so this one might be a little bit longer than what you would normally be used to, but that's all right. So we're going to start off. This is brought to you by Tasty Gains. If you guys head over to tastygains.com, they have creatine gummies, they've got nootropic gummies, hydration gummies, and everything that you possibly need to make sure that you're getting that swole on, and then also for your mental gains, because that is as important as the physical gains. We'll head over to Joint News. Senate... the Senate confirms Matthew Lomar as Undersecretary of the Air Force. The United States Senate confirmed former Space Force Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lomar as the Undersecretary of the United States Air Force in a 52-46 vote. Nominated by Trump, Lomar is tasked with advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion policies within the Department of Defense while modernizing the U.S. Air Force and United States Space Force. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had delayed these efforts until both positions were filled. So I do recognize his name. I want to say that he is the dude that got booted out for the COVID vaccine, right? For refusing it. Maybe I'm wrong. I may have to do some research on that, but anyway, we got a lot to get through, so let me continue on. Next, U.S. and Australian troops conduct major logistics operation in Talisman Sabre exercise. U.S. and Australian troops led a record-breaking logistics push to support over 35,000 service members during the Talisman Sabre exercise, marking the first major movement of pre-positioned American equipment from South Australia. Approximately 850 logistics personnel participated using C-17s, C-130Js, MV-22 Ospreys, and amphibious vessels for the supply transport. The operation emphasizes a fully integrated combined joint force from top to bottom. And I bet those folks had a good time. Next, Pentagon selects finalists for Replicator 2 counter-drone demonstration. The counter-drone demonstration, The Defense Innovation Unit selected 10 finalists for the low-cost sensing challenge as part of the second phase of the Replicator initiative, focused on countering adversary drone swarms. These firms will demonstrate their technology during the U.S. Northern Command's Falcon Peak exercise this year. The challenge engages non-traditional defense companies to develop solutions for identifying and responding to threats. There's big money in that, that's for sure. Next, Army General warns of high casualties in potential war with China. Yeah, no shit. The Deputy Commanding General of the U.S. Army Pacific stated that a war with China would result in far more casualties than experienced during the global war on terrorism. Okay, so point to that. As many lives that were tragically lost during GWAT, when you compare them to the Korean War, Vietnam, World War II, World War I, like percentage-wise, I guess, we did pretty well there. But General, the Army General is 100% correct on this. A hot war with China would be devastating in terms of casualties. Okay, necessitating preparations for mass casualty events, the military would need to partner with other countries, deploy mobile army surgical hospitals, and conduct aeromedical evacuations through the Indo-Pacific region's vast size. Although the Indo-Pacific region's vast size poses significant challenges, transporting fallen service members home could also prove difficult, as evidenced by those interned in Manila American Cemetery in the Philippines. Yeah, all that is so. There's so many aspects of this when we start talking about space, cyber, naval support, air supremacy in that region, the size of the Pacific. Like it's just, there's so many issues. And when we start talking about like personnel recovery from pilots shot down and all that kind of stuff, like it's just not going to happen, or not going to happen like we know it. Next, DoD establishes task force for military moves after contractor failure. The DoD announced a new joint task force to assist active duty service members and families with permanent change of station moves following performance issues with the HomeSafe Alliance under the Global Household Goods contract. The alliance fell behind on moves last year, prompting notifications to improve key indicators like pickup rates and subcontractor payments. The task force will coordinate remaining moves and support families during this transition. Good, because that whole program was a complete shit show. Next, auditors find DoD struggles to track foreign objects in equipment. A Government Accountability Office, or GAO, report revealed that the DoD's procurement system failed to adequately track the country of origin for components in equipment, such as microelectronics. Only 10% of the suppliers voluntarily report this information, despite steps taken to improve tracking. The office recommends requiring contractors to include country of origin data to enhance oversight. Next, DoD Secretary meets with Baltic defense ministers on NATO commitments. Secretary of Defense held a quadrilateral meeting with defense ministers from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania on the 25th of July to discuss NATO commitments and defense spending. The discussions focused on strengthening alliances and addressing shared security challenges in the region. This engagement underscores ongoing efforts to bolster international partnerships amid global threats. All right, this is Air Force news. Pacific Wargames tests new air mobility communications technology. The Mobility Guardian 2025 exercise explores enhanced troop movements and logistical operations through the U.S. Air Force's Air Mobility Command. Lieutenant General John Lemontagne, dude, I'm sorry, sir, I am messing up your name. Lemontagne? I'm an idiot. Emphasize flexibility and agility in adapting to changing environments as key to air power. The exercise involves 85 mobility aircraft, nearly 2,200 airmen, and new developments like airlift tanker open mission system kit for electronic coordination. Cool. I actually, you know what? I think I have done a Mobility Guardian exercise, but I'm not AMC. Never have been, but I've doesn't mean that you don't do cross MAGCOM stuff. All right, next. Airmen killed in gunshot incident at F.E. Warren Air Force Base identified. Airman Braden Loven, 21-year-old from Kentucky, died in a gunshot incident at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. As a member of the 90th Security Forces Squadron, Loven had joined the U.S. Air Force in November of 2023 and was assigned to the base in May 2024. Commanders expressed condolences and focused on supporting his family and team. Man, I'm so sorry that happened to you, dude. And to the families, like, that's really crappy and a terrible way to go out, and just know that, you know, the issues that everybody's been identifying with SIGs, at least hopefully now, a change can be made so that this doesn't happen again. And I know that this is kind of a freak accident, but it's still not great, and it doesn't make things any better. So, like, I really hope, for what it's worth, I hope you guys get through this and find some kind of peace. Next, U.S. Air Force investigates potential uncommanded fire in new. This is the similar kind of thing. U.S. Air Force investigates potential uncommanded fire in new pistol after airman's death in the U.S. The U.S. Air Force is probing whether the Sig Sauer M18 pistol can discharge without trigger pull following Airman Braden Loven's death at F.E. Warren. Air Force Global Strike Command issued a stand-down order to assess safety concerns. The company affirmed confidence in the military's investigation and committed to cooperation. Next, Airmen aid flood recovery in Ruidoso? And, oh man, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce these words. Mescalero Apache tribe. Over 90 airmen from Holloman Air Force Base in Fort Bliss assisted with flood recovery in New Mexico and the Mescalero Apache tribe, sorting clothing, clearing debris, and filling sandbags. Volunteers also supported repairs at the tribal fish hatchery. The effort highlights mutual support between the squadron and tribe, including past collaborations on morale patches and educational initiatives. New Mexico seeks court order for PFAS, or the forever chemicals, sampling at Cannon Air Force Base. New Mexico's Attorney General requested a court order to allow inspectors to collect the PFAS, polyfluoroalkyl substances, at Cannon Air Force Base, accusing the federal government of denying access. Base officials permitted inspections of 38 facilities but withheld PFAS sampling authorization due to ongoing litigation. The U.S. Air Force continues investigating past PFAS releases and sharing findings with state environmental authorities. Next, U.S. Air Force CV-22 Osprey makes precautionary emergency landing in Japan. A CV-22 Osprey conducted a precautionary emergency landing at Hanamaki Airport in Japan during a flight from Misawa to Yokota Air Base, with no injuries reported. Japanese Defense Minister officials dispatched staff to assist U.S. Air Force forces. An assessment of the incident is ongoing with no disruptions. All right, we've got some good men and women that are out there flying these things and working on these things, and kudos to them. But that doesn't negate the fact that this thing should never even existed for the Air Force. The Air Force should have never bought these. And this was a political move because one piece of the aircraft is made in all 50 states. The Air Force and the military in general should not be in the business of creating jobs for people, right? These are not political things. These are people's lives that you guys are dealing with. It's just, listen, man, I've flown on these things a lot. I've fast rope at them, I've jumped at them. They are fun to jump out of, but it's not a great aircraft, and it's riddled with problems. All right, Space Force news. U.S. Space Force activates new system Deltas for mission warning and targeting. The Space Force activated 2 new system Deltas to oversee missile warning, tracking, and space-based sensing and targeting developments. Lieutenant General Philip Garrett highlighted the framework's role in streamlining acquisitions and operations through collaboration with Mission Deltas. System Delta 84 focuses on missile warning, while System Delta 810 addresses sensing and targeting. Next, these are of interest. Trump releases AI action plan for technological dominance. President Donald Trump unveiled an AI action plan to eliminate bureaucratic obstacles, accelerate innovation, and establish American hardware and software as global standards. The initiative aims to win the global AI competition for economic and national security benefits. White House AI czar David Sachs emphasized the revolutionary impact of AI and the need for U.S. leadership. All right. You can skip that one. Skip that one because these are all kind of weak sauce. All right, here's one. This is an opinion piece. China lags behind SpaceX in reusable launch capabilities. China struggles to match SpaceX's launch pace due to lacking reusable space vehicles, with limited satellites deployed for constellations like Qianfan and the Guiyang. SpaceX's Falcon 9 enables multi-recoveries and reuses, per astrophysicist Jonathan McDowell. China may accelerate launches, but needs breakthroughs for parity in a few years. This is why the space race is so important, and that little news read right there makes you think that we are ahead of them, and we are, but that is such a thin margin, because as soon as they steal or are able to develop the IP that they stole from SpaceX, you better believe they're going to be up in space launching things 2 times a day. All right. Next, Iran sets conditions for renewed nuclear talks with U.S. Iran's deputy foreign minister stated willingness to restart nuclear negotiations if the U.S. respects Iran's uranium enrichment rights under the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. Planned talks with European officials follow recent hostilities, including U.S. airstrikes on Iranian facilities. European nations demand restored access for International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors. Jeez, mouthful. All right. Now this is going into today's news. Now, what I just read to you was last Friday's news, and now here is what they released today. All right, joint news. U.S. forces kill senior Islamic State leader in Syria raid. The United States forces in Syria conducted a raid that killed a senior Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, ISIS leader, and 2 associates. U.S. Central Command officials affirmed their commitment to relentlessly pursuing ISIS terrorists wherever they operate or hide. The new commander of the Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve emphasized strengthening regional partnerships to sustain pressure on ISIS. Next, Wargames examined drone attacks on U.S. military bases. Tabletop exercises in March underscored the need to integrate and synchronize multiple authorities for counter-drone operations near or on U.S. military bases. Designed by RAND Corporation researchers, the exercises highlighted challenges in coordinating approved drone flights between the Federal Aviation Administration and the Department of Defense. They endorsed the U.S. Northern Command proposal for quote-unquote flyaway kits of mobile counter-drone systems and suggested optimizing the National Guard for responding to drone incursions. Next, Pentagon suspends participation in think tank events. The DoD has suspended involvement in all think tank events to align them with the Trump administration's values. The DoD's Public Affairs Office will vet future conferences to ensure they advance the White House agenda. Participation in the Aspen Security Forum was canceled earlier this month due to concerns over its promotion of globalism and disdain for the U.S. leadership. Next, U.S. Space Command prepares for satellite combat. Space Command is conducting rendezvous and proximity preparations with allies to prepare for potential space conflicts. Space Comms Commander highlighted the need for space weapon systems, including orbital interceptors, in collaboration with 6 partner nations on a joint campaign plan. Efforts to focus on enhancing satellite resilience through orbital refueling, increased fuel capacity, or proliferated constellations. Next, Pentagon expands opportunities for smaller companies in Nextcloud contract. The DoD is seeking to broaden participation for smaller contractors in the Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability Next contract. The DoD Chief Information Officer emphasized expanding the aperture to foster competition, innovation, and efficiency. The initiatives target companies offering innovative artificial intelligence tools, unique space capabilities, and new methods for weapons and business system development. Next, Pentagon redirects $200 million to U.S.-Mexico border wall. The DoD will shift $200 million from the military construction projects in Guam and elsewhere to fund a border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. The funds will support barriers, patrol roads, and pedestrian gates in the western section of the Barry M. Goldwater Range to achieve full operational control. This decision follows reports of increased undocumented migrant traffic and drug seizures in the area. All right, Air Force news. Air Force reestablishes Warfighter Communications Office. The U.S. Air Force reestablished its communications directorate, separating it from intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance and cyber operations. The new office will focus resources on supporting warfighter communications and cyber systems in contested environments. It aims to help the U.S. Air Force compete against adversaries in cyberspace. Next, second B-21 Raider set for imminent flight. A second B-21 Raider bomber will become operational soon, advancing production and testing of its stealth and maintainability features. The commander of the Air Force Global Strike Command praised the progress and supported increasing production from 100 to 145 aircraft. A recent reconciliation bill allocated $4.5 billion to boost the B-21 production capability. Man, I'm excited to see this thing come out and actually fly. It's going to be sweet. Next, aircraft showcase in Indo-Pacific exercise. Actually, we already talked about this exercise, so I'll skip that one. Top enlisted Air Force leader apologizes for uniform violation. The Chief Master of the Air Force apologized for wearing a tie that was too short during multiple uniform combinations. The incident occurred while recognizing a young airman volunteering for security at the Royal International Air Tattoo. The U.S. Air Force recently announced additions to the uniform inspection and reviews of the waivers and dress and appearance policy. Wow, I can't believe Public Affairs actually put that out. Pizza Cat, that's right, Pizza Cat, confirmed alive and well at Al Udeid Air Base. Officials at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar confirmed that the beloved Pizza Cat is alive and boosting morale. The cat, a frequent subject of social media inquiries, has resided at the base for about 10 years. Deployed members from years past continue to check on its well-being. Space Force news. Space Force reorganizes acquisition into System Delta's Space System Command, reorganizing its acquisition efforts into System Deltas focuses on key mission areas rather than functional specialties. This structure consolidates program offices to streamline design and development and delivery under a unified force design. The SSC commander noted that it enhances collaboration between acquisitions and operations across field commands, mirroring prior integrated mission deltas. Let me see some other stuff here, because I know this is going long. Fishermen seek compensation for rocket launch impacts at Cape Canaveral, Florida. Cape Canaveral, Florida fishermen and groups recommended establishing a compensation program with Congress and SpaceX for economic losses or equipment damage from launches at Cape Canaveral. Nets have been damaged by debris affecting historical family-run fisheries. Stakeholders emphasize they support space activities but minimal harm to local industries. Man, there's a lot more. May have to split this up and finish this off tomorrow. We'll just do this as the last one. Debate on lead agency for asteroid defense between NASA and Space Force. A House committee hearing examined whether the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, and the U.S. Space Force should lead defense against near-Earth asteroids. Proponents argued for planetary defense as a core mission, potentially under Space Force, for space domain awareness and integration with missile defense. Developing operational capability could be achieved at modest cost and serve as a legacy for the administration. All right, that's it here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you later. See you!